Good afternoon, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our spoiler review, non-spoiler review, non-spoiler review of Queen and Slim.
Right.
Some things we need to preface before we get into this. We said non-spoiler. There is spoiler stuff that happens. There's stuff that happens in this movie that would spoil kind of the story, but it's kind of hard not. We'll work our way around it. We also saw this the week after it opened, and so I know I've heard some stuff about it going in.
I hadn't. I try to avoid hearing stuff.
I try
about
to
movies.
avoid that stuff too, but it came up in different conversations of podcasts and stuff that I learned. And the other thing that I would like to preface this, and it's hard not to talk about this part, is we're middle class white folk, and so our perspective is going to be very different than somebody else's, and that's not right or wrong in any particular way. But this story is amazing, but not for us. But we can still enjoy the movie and find things out of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, we can empathize, and we can empathize with the characters and appreciate the artistry.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically she's not a first-time director, but she's a first-time motion picture director. She's done a bunch of TV, and that's Melina Matsakosik? Sure. And she's done a bunch of TV stuff, but this was her first major movie thing. And one of the things we both had listened to was an interview with her with Trevor Noah. Was that?
Yes, I think the interview was actually with Lena Waite, who's the one that writes it.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And they talked about how they wanted to tell this story and give the perspective from many different angles. And
from the black community.
community.
Yeah, like all the different, shades of being black.
Right. Right. And from my point of view specifically, I feel like they did a really good job of that. They showed the story is very Thelma and Louise kind of feel to it. They actually make a joke that they're the black Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
And I never really felt that in the movie. They weren't on a crime spree like Bonnie and Clyde were, kind of thing.
Right.
But knowing that it's kind of a Thelma and Louise kind of feel to it, I think that they did a really good job of representing two people on the run and how they were accepted by or not accepted by their community as they went along.
Right. And, this isn't a spoiler. They're accidental criminals, right?
It's in the trailer. So
you see in the trailer that, they get harassed by a white cop to the point where he gets shot and now they're criminals. Now they're cop murderers. And I really appreciated, we talked about this, that they start off as very middle class, black young people. They've she's a lawyer. I don't think that's a spoiler. And they move into this kind of life of crime that they didn't want to be in, and their personas kind of change along with them. Like she's very almost uptight, I'm a young black professional, and she makes comments that he chews too loud, and they're just like getting on each other's nerves, and they kind of just transition over into this other persona
and evolution of their relationship. They start off on a Tinder date, and then their evolution of a relationship and finding love within each other and finding understanding each other, that you kind of learn about somebody over time or within a stress of a situation or whatever. You don't really learn about somebody on a dinner date for the first time. And they even make a joke about, would you have gone on a second date with me, and stuff like that. And so I really I really love this story. Like it's a very unique story. At least the way they tell it, it's a very unique story. It's not a unique story for what's going on in our country and how people of color have been treated by police and by media and all that stuff. That is not a new story.
Right.
But having this idea of telling that narrative very intimately with two people in a car most of the time.
Yeah. And then it takes place pretty much in the South. They start off in Ohio, and then they drive south into New Orleans and across into Florida. So there's a lot of, because they're in a car, there's a lot of scenery that you don't ordinarily see in a movie.
A lot of back road scenery that makes the South very pretty.
Yeah.
And you get and you also get they also do a good point of showing the dissolve of rural America, how a lot of small towns main streets are boarded up buildings and and maybe not so a lot of graffiti and kind of showing that the disillusion of small towns in the South and showing that as a narrative in the background.
Or areas where black people, would tend to live, or, not necessarily, but the people that they're now kind of being forced to be engaged with, one of whom is a relative of hers. So now they're going into, from this kind of stuck up or whatever lawyer to, and he's from a very wealthy family. They show his family's home at one point in time. It's very nice. So they've gone from very upper class down to these graffiti filled, boarded up,
and it's really kind of a cool situation. It sounds weird to say cool situation, that they just embrace what has ended up happening to them. And that's one of the things that I really loved about this, was that they instead of, once they make the decision to go on the run, they just embrace living their life.
Yeah.
And they embrace, let's just go dance. Let's just, let's he's not a drinker, and let's go have drinks. It was stuff like that I really appreciated. The performances you get out of Daniel Coulier. Daniel Coulier, everything. He needs to be in everything.
Right.
Because to go from what he is in Sicario to Us,
he's not in Us.
Not Us. Get Out.
Get Out. Yeah.
And then he plays the bad guy.
In Widows.
It's in Widows. Yeah, he plays a super evil dude in Widows.
Yeah.
And then in this, he's very religious and transforms into this free spirit and stuff like that.
Right.
I really love his performance, but the performance that we get out of a brand new person to the world is Jodie Turner-Smith.
Yeah.
She plays Queen, and to have this be her first real big role, and to see again her transformation from this uptight lawyer kind of person into this, towards the end, this free spirit of and finding love and allowing herself to be loved and all that was amazing. I was super.
I about halfway through, because we have heard it's a little bit of rumblings about whether Daniel Coulier will be Oscar nominated or nominated in the award season for this movie. And yes, I mean, Daniel Coulier really should be awarded for everything, but I halfway through this movie, I'm like, she's actually out acting him.
Yeah.
And that's tough. But her performance was amazing.
And it's really hard. They did this last year with Green Book, to have two people in a car. You have to have a chemistry there. Yeah. And the chemistry between the two of them is pretty spot on. To have that friction with each other, and then the love at the end is very cool. And there's the way it's shot is really cool. There's early on, there's a lot of separation between the two of them, and
Yeah.
he's on one like
Yeah.
very much across from each other, away
He's
from each other.
actually at one point as far out of the car as he could possibly be without being out of the car.
Yeah,
He is.
yeah.
He's got his head leaned up against the window while he's driving, trying to be as
And
far away
she's
from
leaning
her
the
as
other way,
possible.
and it's a one shot.
Yeah.
So it's him, and then they cut to her, and they're both like on opposite sides of the screen from each other.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
cameras are actually mounted like on the mirrors, right?
Yeah,
So you're
yeah.
looking like this. Yeah.
And the other thing that's a really cool thing is they continue to have this shot when they get done with the scene. The scene is ended and punctuated with them with this overhead drone shot of the car driving away, continuously driving. So they're still on the run, they're still on the road,
Right.
and stuff like that. It was just a kind of a nice reminder that they're still on the go.
Right.
The entire time. And I just thought that the cinematography, it was a female cinematographer too, so that
Yeah.
was a really cool. Like it was a female writer, female director, a lot of the female cast. Behind the scenes stuff was
Right.
nice, and it'd be nice to see some recognition for this movie. It's not going to make a ton of money, but I think that there's actually some merit to having the conversation of this is a movie that a lot of people are complaining that you're not getting a new story, or everything's about a comic book story, comic book movie
Right.
or something. That this movie actually continues the narrative, or maybe is having the narrative of here's a bunch of people who are doing great work. Let's recognize them for that great work.
Well, and it's the conversation that was being had probably about a year ago about whitewashed Hollywood, whitewashed Oscars, and how do you get these females or people of color into these bigger movies without any experience? So this is an opportunity for these
absolutely.
people to get experience to then be potentially looked at for some of these bigger movies.
I would love to see all of these people. Daniel Kaluuya, like I said, he can be anything.
Right.
But I like to see all of these people in something else now. Like
Right.
I'm going to be excited to see Jodie Turner-Smith and see
Right.
what she does next, and see what the director does next, see what the cinematographer.
Right.
Like I'm excited to see what they all do next, and I'm now going to be more excited about seeing their stuff, knowing that this is their track record.
Right.
It's much how I feel about like Denis Villeneuve after seeing Sicario. Anything that Denis Villeneuve did, I was going to be excited for. I
Right.
didn't care what it was.
Right.
Now it happens to be genres that I really like,
Right.
but I that's that kind of thing, and
Yep.
so
Yep. And the music is amazing. Lots of it kind of covers the genre of what I would expect to be kind of the black experience in
Yeah,
music,
yeah.
right? The music that your older family, your grandmother, your mom and dad, whatever, listened to, all the way up to hip hop, right? Jazz.
Jazz and blues and hip hop and
Yeah.
classic piano, and then the score is amazing, and like we're walking out, I'm like, I'm going to go buy the soundtrack because the soundtrack is just so cool.
Yeah.
Because there's this cool transition, like depending on which part of the country, like there's a whole blues scene.
Yeah.
They could have spent like 45 minutes in that one bar.
Yeah.
I'm like about, I don't know, like 2 minutes into that scene, I'm like, this is totally a bar I would go to.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shithole.
Yeah.
I totally would go to this kind of bar.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cool bluesy kind of stuff. So overall, I was really happy with this movie. Score?
This is tough. Because I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm a 4.25.
Okay.
I was a 4 until we started talking about it, and I'm like, I would watch this again.
Oh, I would too. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would totally watch this again, and that's one of those criteria where I take my number and then maybe add a quarter or a half point depending on what it is.
Yeah.
If on rewatchability, and that's what we talked about. So that is our review on Queen and Slim. Let us know what you thought of the movie and our review of it. Please like this video, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the social media stuff, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. All those links are in the description down below. And until next time, if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.